Hello, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started for week 4 here. Today, we're going to talk about press releases. Press releases are very much pretty intimidating, I think, like overall at first. I know they were for me before I started to work on them. But they're really not. And actually, the biggest part about a press release is making sure that the audience is taken into account. Now, the audience for a press release is typically going to be the general public, basically. So the general public really is are folks that will want to have the content be very simplified and not really super complex or any of that nature. And typically, the way I approach like writing content for folks in the general public is I kind of break things down to like a high school or middle school kind of level. Because not everyone is an expert in everything as far as some of the content of press releases. So, say for instance, when I was a communications manager, I was working for a cancer immunotherapy research place. And so there's a lot of scientific content that came out into the press releases that, the general public wouldn't necessarily know about, like complex formulas and different cell types and things like that. So in the press releases for that, we really just had links to details if people wanted to go learn more about the specifics about something as complex as some of the proteins and the cells and things that are involved in all of that. But in the main body of the press release, instead of incorporating those short links, in the main body, we wanted to make sure that the content was consumable for the general public. So just give them the high level information about what this latest breakthrough in cancer immunotherapy treatment was, and etc. That's one audience for a press release is the general public. The other big audience for a press release is the media. So by virtue of the fact that you have to appeal to the general public, the media also has to appeal to the general public too. And then what they do is they take that story, that press release, and they create a news story out of it, and then they deliver that to the general public. So again, for things for the general public, if you want a quick turnaround from a media agency to put it on their news broadcast right away, which is what you want to do, it has to be very simple for the news organization people to understand and then to decipher and then create a story out of it. And then B, it has to communicate to the audience that they're trying to appeal to, which is the general public. So that's like the biggest thing about press releases, and that fact alone should kind of alleviate a lot of the intimidation from a press release that people might have. It's a very simple document. A lot of the content is very factual in nature. So, for instance, press releases that the college at Midstate creates. They're all about like events that we're hosting, and then a lot of the content experts are deans within the school or instructors or community members. And really, it's a matter of the media person in the marketing department reaching out to any of these key contacts, be it the dean or the faculty member or the community partner. Say it's like the mayor, say it's like the fire chief or something like that, a state senator or someone of that nature outside of the organization. It's just a matter of, hey, can we have a quick conversation? And then it's just kind of an interview style, who, what, when, where, why, all the initial kind of jump off questions the person that comes to the table doing the interview and writing the press release would have. And it typically be like a public relations person. And then And then any kind of like spin-off questions from that, like follow-ups is what they'll call those questions. So follow-up questions will then be included on the fly in the moment, and then other questions would be prepared up front for the person, and then that is being interviewed, the content expert of the press release, the person that's hosting the event, the person that the event's about, the company that the press release is about, etc. And I'll show you different examples of press release types that there are out there in the industry. So in all industries, not just one specific one, but this is for all industries, these types. So all that said, I'm going to go into week 4 here and show you guys a little of what we have. Right now I'm going to unhide this because by the time this video is over and recorded, it will be ready to go. So, why? All right, so week 4, under week 4, if you go ahead and go under here, you'll find a folder called lecture content. That's going to be the stuff I'm going to roll over right now with you. First thing I want to do is do the press releases document in a nutshell. This is kind of like a cheat sheet document that I think is going to be perfect for you to reference, whether it be now or in the future as well. There's so much stuff about press releases out there that you could just Google and so on. But this is some of the stuff that I've cobbled together, put it in one document, so it's super easy to follow along with. So if you check it out here, this is a little bit of an explanation of what a press release is. So the real definition is an official announcement that an organization issues to the news media and beyond, i.e. being the public domain. Um, so something to take into consideration about a press release is the heading should contain action verbs. The first paragraph should answer the who, what, why, and where questions. So who is this press release about? What is it about? Why am I hearing about it? And where is it about? So let's say, for example, we find let's go to Mid-State's site here, and we have a lot of press release examples under the About Mid-State section and News. So once you get About, go under About and the News, you'll see we'll have the primary press release that we have running. This is the latest and greatest one, is in the header of the website. And the headline for this press release is New Metal Fabrication Program Coming to Mid-State. So it's straight to the point. It's kind of like a subject line in email, like this is what this thing is going to be about. And it's very brief and simple. We have others as well. So here's some of these ones from our backup stories, if you will, further back in time. Mid-State announces fall 2022 Dean's List. Okay, so that answers a lot too. Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Conference coming to Mid-State Technical College. So again, like with those 3 right there, you know exactly what this news article is going to be about just by that title. So it's just a very well written headlines there for those. And that's really one of the one of the most attractive pieces of a press release. It's very much like an email marketing too, like doing a very effective subject line is more important than actually the body copy of the email itself, because that's what gets the email open. If you don't have a good subject line, or if the subject line is ineffective or unrelatable to the audience, irrelevant to them, then you're not even going to get an open. So you don't even have a chance to get a click through and let your call to action in the marketing email entice people to come and buy your product. So headline is super important. And this is the same case for a press release. When a press release is sent out to media organizations to pick up, i.e. what pick up means is that they actually take the press release and craft a story out of it and then publish it. That's considered a pickup. So for even a media organization to pick up the press release, they're going to have to be attracted by the headline too. So again, your 2 main audiences for press release are both the news media, news reporters, and the general public. The press release should also contain understandable language and a quote. So what I mean by understandable language is stuff that's not too technical, stuff that is very basic. Like I said earlier, probably like high school education level. And a quote. So a quote is going to come from people like the president of the college or the CEO of the company that the press release is about, or the event organizer for the conference potentially that this event is about. If it's a new product, the primary product engineers or the CEO of the company that made the product, etc. Um, Next, press releases provide enough information so that news outlets have sufficient material for publishing their own stories and whatever the company is announcing in the release. So the press releases are very factual based. It's not very fluffy language in there or anything like that, or like very similar to our advertising type copy. It's very straight to the point and factual. There's no opinion one way or the other about it. Okay, so the types of press releases. One of the major types of press releases are new product launches. So this press release is going to emphasize the product specs, pricing, availability, and meaning when it's going to be available on the market or what kind of variation levels of the product there are. Like say it's a new car or new iPhone or something, there's going to be the iPhone Plus, the iPhone Pro, the phone, the base model, the different color variation, all that stuff would be something that's very factual based about a product that will go into a press release, what kind of chips are available and things like that. Um, Now, details of the chips and the performance is probably not super necessary, or something that the general public would quote unquote relate to. Now, when you think of a press release and the hierarchy of things, like yes, a large part of the market and the general public would understand like different types of chips, whether it's an M1 or different things like that. But that's not going to be like at the top of the press release because that's not going to be the thing that everyone is going to relate to on a general mass, broad scale. That will be like the size of the phone. Let's just say if we're doing the product and things like that. So as you are chunking out the facts and the information in the press release content, you're going to actually want to create a hierarchy out of that. Like, okay, what is the one that's going to cover everyone's knowledge base? And then what's the thing that's going to cover the least? And then in your press release, you put the most important stuff at the top and then trickle it down to the not most important, but the most relatable stuff at the top to the maybe least relatable stuff towards the bottom of the press release. So remember hierarchy when it comes to some of those things, very much like the bullet point strategy that I was talking about when we were creating ads, those most high selling point bullet points, putting those towards the top, or that highest selling point message at the top, and then the stuff that could take it or leave it kind of coming in after that. And then any other details that may be valuable to consumers, as far as like the new product, like perhaps its effect on other products in the market, or how how it's differentiated from different other competitors in the market, and things like that would be something to include, as long as it was based on fact. This phone has 80% better performance than the Google phone, let's just say. Something like that, very factual, that would be something to put in a press release, not opinion stuff. So this is, that's in an ad. So it would be in an ad, it'd be like, the world's best French fries. Okay, it's not really measurable because you can't measure the best, you can't, the best is not a measurable metric. But you can say the um, French fries that have the least amount of saturated fat compared to any other fries in the world. That's something that's measurable. Like you can actually say, oh yes, this has, you know, the least amount of saturated fat compared to, other major fry retailers in the market. Okay, so that's the difference between like something that's more advertising and something that's more factual and belongs in a press release. Mergers and acquisitions, that's exactly what it sounds like is when two companies come together to create one, then there's a press release that goes out and it details about the organizations and the information about the merger, what kind of branding they might each go for, which is kind of where my head goes right away because of just the nature of what I do. But maybe like the change in the corporate structure, are there going to be layoffs involved? Or are they going to need to expand their workforce and these types of things that like investors would be interested in, or the general public as well, because of course the general public are investors in most companies, using the stock market and things like that. And then the mergers and acquisitions press release would also get quotes from leadership teams within both organizations. So the most recent one, I think it was United Airlines and Continental Airlines were two airlines that merged together to create United. So United just kind of absorbed it, but that was a merger and an acquisition. Product updates. So any product that is on a new generation. So if it's like the iPhone 10 goes on to the iPhone 11, that new generation of iPhone or product, maybe it's a car or something like that. That's going to you know be a candidate for press release content. It would explain, this press release would focus on what the change is, why it was made, or how it benefits the user. It wouldn't go into like it probably wouldn't go into like all of the features of the product, after the initial product launch press release. It would probably just go into whatever those updates and upgrades were from the last one. Major events like conferences and stuff like that. Um, Midstate does these things too, and then we do press releases on some of them as well. And sometimes we do like post-event press releases and just to talk about how the event went and what had happened, if anything major, any major stories came out of it. But this includes what the event is about, who should consider attending, when it were and where it will be, pricing, and any other unnecessary details about the event. Grand opening, so new businesses that come in, you see these a lot, especially on Facebook and stuff. In the Stevens Point area, the most recent one I remember was the Mission Coffee House press release that came out, but they opened that location in the Mid-State Stevens Point campus location. And so Mid-State did not have a press release about it, but the grand opening was posted. I think it was Portage County um, Business Council did the press release for that. Okay, so that includes the date and location of the grand opening, who's involved, and things like that. Let's see. Let's see. New partnerships. So sometimes like companies will partner with another company to launch like a product. So when I was at Quad Tech, we had a partner company that had a color editing software that we integrated in one of our products. So that was like a partnership. And when that partnership happened, and that integration of that software came into one of the camera products, and we launched we wrote a press release about that. And so, why it was created, what the benefits are, and any additional information, etc. Would be included in a press release like that. Hiring and promotions, press releases about that. Awards, so press release about Mid-State Technical College, a marketing team winning an award for the National Council of Marketing and Public Relations. or any awards for that matter, or within organizations, or maybe people within organizations. I've seen get press releases done on them. If they wanted to highlight, how talented some of the people in the organization are. Rebranding, so like logo changes and stuff like that, sometimes comes into the press release as well. So, how to write or a press release, like these are basically going to follow up with you and just like high level, like bullet point details that you want to just keep in mind when it comes to press releases. And I did talk about the first one a little bit already about writing an effective headline. You want the headline to really be like one line of text, if at all possible. I do have a template for the press release too to show you about how many characters that one line of text would be. If you think about an email too, the subject line of an email is not very can't be very long because it doesn't fit in all of the different email clients out there. You might see like the first 5 words or 6 words or X amount of characters in some. So you want to just kind of make it as brief and straight to the point as you can and closer to the front end as much as you can. Using action verbs, like I stated earlier, clear, understandable language, as stated earlier. Um, uh, again, I talked about this too. Keep in mind the audience, reporters, analysts, influencers on social media as well, and then followers to your own social media pages, because typically the press release will be shared on social media and then shared within your followers too. But if you target the general public and media, that's going to cover all of your bases there. Um, but those other folks are there watching as well, those influencers especially. First paragraph should cover the who, what, when, where, and why. So again, this is something that's going to be important because it gets right to the point in that first paragraph. So the first paragraph is like the biggest, most important paragraph. It tells like the whole, basically the crux of the story, and then from there it just goes kind of detail. But the who, what, when, where, why, if you cover that in the first paragraph, then that's like the perfect press release. Offering a quote. So a quote from a person within the organization is going to be required in every single press release. So who that person in the organization is, it's unclear. It just depends on the position of the person and the nature of the press release, what kind of angle you want to take on the press release, right? So if the colleges start launching a new marketing program, do they want the marketing program to be looked at in the general public as more on the creative side? Would you then talk to the creative instructors more so, and then get a quote from them, or would you talk to more of the business side of the instructors and get a quote from them, or would you go towards more of the sales team? And the sales coursework instructors and get a quote from them about the new program. So it's like you could frame the conversation in many different ways, just depending on what your end goal is and what you want your perception to be in the eyes of the public. Okay. And that's kind of what I mean when it says chosen quotes should shape your narrative and emphasize the core of the announcement emphasis. So if you want the emphasis to be on the creative, you pick someone within the creative to give you the quote. If you want it to be focused on business and emphasize that, then that's what you would do with that quote. Um, you could pick one or two spokespeople to focus on the quotes in there as well. Let's see here. You want to provide valuable background information on the subject. So again, like facts, statistics, data. It's more of that, and it's all of that essentially in a press release. Um, I think if you want to expand on that and get a little more interesting with the content, You could comment on the future implications of what the current stats, data, and statistics mean. So, for instance, if it's a merger of two companies, their net worth would be X amount of billion over the next 5 years as a result of, this merger today. So that would be something that's like factual, based on current data that might be interesting to people reading the press release. Provide a simple call to action. So, in the press release would include if it's an event, people can register at the event at this website. If it's a new product, learn more about the new product and reserve an order here. So create a call to action, because then in some news stories, those news outlets would actually tell their audiences where to go get this product or things like that through their story. Um, let's see. So traditional and strategic ways to share a press release. These are just some of the tactics that we used to share press releases in the past. So you can reach out to specific journalists if you have like a database of journalists of people that your organization works with. It's a lot easier here in a smaller area, with Midstate, because Midstate has a lot of pull in the community. And then so a lot of things that Midstate does becomes big stories in the media, because there's just not a lot to report on, here necessarily when you're talking about that in comparison to a city that has like several million people, or 300,000 or something like that. You're competing against more organizations in those areas. But here in this area, we have Midstate is sort of a big fish, right? So when I say reach out to specific journalists, Midstate over the years would have built a lot of relationships by working with a lot of journalists from local news stations and things like that. So it's not too far from the realm of possibility for the media department at Midstate to actually be able to reach out to a specific journalist and say, hey, here's a press release, rather than do um, a massive publication of it and then just hope that someone stumbles onto it, just by chance. So reaching out to specific journalists, organizations do that. They mention big name journalists on social media to get their attention. A lot of journalists just do start their work from places like Twitter. So mentioning them on Twitter would be effective, and sharing that press release with them would be effective in that route too. Now, depending on how big of a journalist they are, it might have big or small effect. If it's someone like kind of starting out early in their career or mid-career, in a smaller town, let's just say, as a journalist, mentioning them on social media would by virtue be more effective than mentioning someone who was in a bigger city, um, that was maybe getting mentioned by a lot of different organizations too. Um, you can also send the emails to journalists directly. Now you can do that via email, but what they say is to avoid sending the press release like in the middle of the day or mid-afternoon. You want to set it at off times, and then super early in the morning. So if it's like 5:30 in the morning or something like that, then by the time they check their email, whether they do it in that early or when the workday starts, normally it'll be closer to the top of their inbox. Um, and then I kind of go over it being, for general public audience. And then a big point about a press release is to just keep it 1 page long. 2 pages is like the absolute maximum. A page and a half is probably okay. And then almost half of that first page, or I'm sorry, almost half of that press release. No, I would say not almost half of it. There's a big chunk. There's a big chunk of that document that is just copy that is just boilerplate, or I call it, it's boilerplate because it's used over and over and over again in the same spot, and that's the information about the organization that is publishing the press release. And I'll show you that in the template. So, all right, so that's that little cheat sheet document I wanted to show you guys, share that. It's just called Press Releases in a Nutshell. It really gives you just a high level of the press releases and the press release types. You will use that in the assignment for one little thing, but I'll keep going here and then I'll come back to that. So here is a document that I wanted to give you. Here we go. So this is an outline of a press release, and what I wanted to do is actually, this is very similar to how I broke out the ads, and I wanted to show you like piece by piece how the press release would be structured. Now this is actually like what a full press release would typically look like. Usually it's like a one-page thing like this. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 paragraphs. And then this is the part that I was telling you about earlier, that boilerplate part of the press release. And it's the about section of the press release. And for Midstate, this section doesn't change at all. Okay, so it's just the about. Midstate Technical College just gives a high level overview of who Midstate is. For that news reporter, if they, are just unsure about, never heard of Midstate before, it gives them that super high level. So you guys can read through it, but it basically talks about how we are within the technical college system, how many campuses we have, what our values and mission are, and etc. But up here towards the top, you're typically in a press release, so you're going to have that place for the company logo. So it's going to be up here in the upper corner, whether it be digital or printed, that's where it's going to be. The next area, you're going to have the month and the standard press release announcement. The standard month, date, and year, and then the standard press release announcement. So that's this part here is the standard press release announcement. It's in all caps for immediate release. That's how it's structured in all of the press releases. You always have that part. And it's boilerplate. It's very boilerplate. It's like that's the same thing, and actually it's the same thing across all the industries. There's always that part there, and then there's that date, the month, day, year, structured just like that. Then the next paragraph part is the primary marketing contact information. So in the assignment, you'll put your first and last name here. You could put job title like student, or you can just do that in that assignment, but I'll talk about that later. But you'd also put in the phone number. Now for the assignment, I don't want you guys to put your real phone number, just put like ones or something like that. But you can put your email. But enough about the assignment. I'll just tell you that this is like the general information and the standard information that every press release will go out to. The company that's releasing the press release will need to have a contact person there, that in case the media gets the release and wants to do a story, they can then go back to the person that wrote the press release to kind of coordinate either a time to come to the company's location with the cameras and things like that. So you need to have some contact information there for those types of situations. The simple headline, this one used here as an example. It's bold, so the formatting is always like this as well. It's bold and then sentence case. Then in the body copy here, it has the city of origin from where the press release came from, all in caps, as the first part of the sentence, okay, or the first part of the paragraph. And then there's like a long dash, an end dash, and then the document starts. That's the press release starts. So you can see that the introduction of this paragraph, it being the most important, and I have the labeled here, Midstate Technical College, is ramping up efforts to prepare students for careers in advanced emergency medical services with the return of its Advanced Emergency Medical Technician, AMT, program to the mix of available programs. So it just gets right to the point about what this whole press release is, and then jump into the other parts of it. One part being the quote. So it goes right into a quote from Rick Anderson, Mid-States Associate Dean of Protective and Human Services. And really what Rick is talking about here is the program, why they brought it back, high demand, and greater visibility of this opportunity. We will help more people. And then he goes into on the next part of the quote why it's important to the community and people, i.e., help more people discover opportunities in advanced emergency medicine. So that forward thinking, why does it matter to you? Level of quote is there. Valuable background information. So again, this is very technically based content, right? So it's designed for those who possess a valid EMT license. Okay, that's fact. The reinvigorated 4 credit fact, technical diploma fact, combines asynchronous lectures fact, practical skill labs fact. This could be a bulleted list, but just in sentence format, right? That's effectively what it is, because this is all just facts, figures. Okay. And then it doesn't go into too much facts there, but it gives just enough to entice people, right? For this last part here, which is the call to action. So for more information, if you're enticed enough by the content above, you're going to click down for more information once we get to this call to action section. But I just jumped over this part, and here's another quote here. So a lot of press releases, they try to have 2 quotes. It at least has 1, okay? And then this is a little interesting thing where it's 3 hashtags in a row, and that's the universal signifier that the press release has ended. So every media person that sees that will know that that's the end of the press release. And then what you're about to read after that is the about section of it. So this is the structure of the release here, all mapped out for you. So be sure to look at that. Now, it's not to say that the quote needs to be right after the intro paragraph like it is. It's just like that here. You could go into a couple detail paragraphs and then move the quote towards the end, or move the quote somewhere in the middle. These sections here are, of course, variable in the document. These that I have highlighted here for you. Introduction, of course, is going to be the first one, because there always has to be a first. But the way you organize the those factual paragraphs and the quotes within the press release, it's all up to you as the writer. So if you feel like you want to jump out of the gate with like a really strong quote and it says a lot about the rest of the content in the article, definitely jump off with that. Or if you feel like, wow, these facts and figures are very rich in the story, I want to put those closer to the top. Again, it's all about hierarchy and what would be most important to that end audience member, being the reporters and journalists or the general public. That's how you will set up your hierarchy, just based on what those folks want, because they are the true audience, and they're the most important audience to a press release. Okay. Last thing about a press release here is AP style sheet. Now I don't want to go into AP styling too much, because it's very complicated and it's changing all the time. So, and there's not very it's all very I guess nuanced, for lack of a better word. It's there's like certain, basically what the AP style is a style guide for writing press releases and content that belongs in newspapers. And They tell you how to capitalize things, how to abbreviate things, to make sure that they're all consistent, to how to use punctuation in a certain way, how to write out addresses in a certain way. So what I did in this document, I highlighted things that might be in green here. I highlighted things in green that might be probably the most important from a document like this. This is only 8 pages, so that's why I call it a cheat sheet. If you look for an AP style book and buy it, usually they're like 20 bucks, and I'm not asking you guys to buy it. Um, those could be over 100 page. I mean, they're like over 200 pages. And they have indexes and table of contents and everything else. So, but from my experience, I have not had to go into too much of that with AP styling. I just went with the basics. Um, so for instance, if you have, here's a rule. So acronyms. So that's what you're going to see here in the left. You're going to see style. And then if you need to see pointers of how to apply AP style to an acronym, you would find it in this document. And here's the rules. The first rule is don't use them. So if you can't, if you absolutely have to use an acronym, you can. Now, what it says is spell out on first mention. On subsequent mentions, use generic terms such as the board, the division, etc. Okay, um, so let's see here. Here's an example. The Water Quality Control Division, WQCD. So in a press release, you would not say WQCD introduced this new product in the first paragraph of the document. You would say the Water Quality Control Division, and then in parentheses, you would put WQCD right after that first mention. Then after that, if you need to say the Water Quality Control Division anywhere else in that document after you already spell it out in the first one, then it's okay to say WQCD. Okay, so in the first paragraph and the first mention, when you want to use an acronym and you need to use an acronym, you have to spell it out first, put it in the quotes that it's the acronym, and then type it out, WQCD in this case. And then any other mentions after that, you can use WQCD because you've already spelled it out the first time. So these are just some of like the rules that AP style does. Um, so um, yeah, so dates and times, here's an interesting one. When a month is used with a specific date, abbreviate January, February, August, September, October, November, and December. Notice they didn't say March, they didn't say April. Those are not ones to abbreviate. So July, June, because those are short enough. Okay. So what they're saying is when a month is used with a specific date, like November 7th, you type it out. Oh, here their example is October 8th. So for instance, fall open house will be held on October 8th. You're not writing out October OCTOBER, comma 8. You're writing OCT period 8. That's referred to as October 8th in AP style. And then they note here, not October 8th with the TH. Okay. Now you're going to see a lot of content out there that uses the TH in the dates, right? Um, but that's fine because those organizations, those places are not using the AP style. So on the website or in a lot of mid-state flyers, we use the TH. We say October 8th. We spell out October and then we put the date 8th with the TH sometimes. But we don't use AP style unless it's in a press release because the audience is being the journalists and the news reporters read the stuff for AP style. And if you have it styled for them, it makes their job easier to put it in the print newspaper, right? Which makes it more likely that they'll do it because it's less work for them on their end. This is like some of the reasons why, AP style is still around. So as you go through now, you'll be able to see some of these different rules here. And again, I highlighted the ones that are most important. Just it takes a little time to digest some of these things and what they mean. So what I what I do is I write out my whole entire thing first, and I don't worry about AP styling. And then once I'm pretty much done, like 90% there, I'll go back and then I'll style all the text, the dates, and the facts and the figures with the AP style as needed after it's written out. Because the thing is that I don't want to block my career, and me personally as a writer, and I think a lot of writers too, I don't want to block my creative process and my writing process by, mucking it up with all of these nuanced little rules and things here and there. I want to make sure that I'm creating rich and good content for people to read and be interested in, and then style it afterwards. You have to sort of turn your brain from like the creative to the more rigid, I would say, for AP styling. So again, write it out 90% of the time, 90% of the way, and then go back and style it. That's how I used to do it, because if you're styling and writing at the same time, you're just going to be, it's going to be, you're gonna you're gonna be missing out on a lot of opportunity to create good, engaging content because you're trying to balance both sides of your brain, I think. Um, so what the places that it gets kind of a little bit messy too is with state abbreviations. So all of these abbreviations are used for the states. Um, Now they also say that if you're doing like something like West Palm Beach, Florida here, this is how it would look. It would say West Palm Beach, comma FLA. But a rule that they're saying here is that if it's a city like one of these cities listed, you don't have to put the state after it. So if you say Chicago, you don't in AP style have to say Chicago, comma, Illinois, which is ILL period. Okay, or same for New York, Milwaukee, things like that. So again, these are just different little nuanced rules that are AP style. And if you can't keep these things all in your head, which is why they sell books for AP style. Every year they update it with new things. What are most of the things that they update with? A lot of the technological things that come out. So um, if you have something like AI, how do you reference AI in AP style? Do you say artificial intelligence parentheses AI, or do you just say AI because AI is so widely known at this point now? So the AP style guide for 2023 would address something like that. The one from 2021 or 2020 might not. So because AI might not be something that is in the public sphere as much as it is now, okay? Um, so that's what I wanted to go over with you here. So that's kind of a little reference for you. What I wanted you guys to do is once you write your press release out, um, go back through and look for any titles or dates or times or things like that, and then you'll want to actually go ahead and try and apply AP styling to that. All right, so then I'll go into the assignment here. So under Project 5 press release, I have a resources folder for you. So these are all resources to things that are going to help you write out this press release, okay? Let's go to first we'll go to the project, and then we'll open up the template. Okay, so for this project, I have the due date of February 21 here before midnight. So that's next week. For the project, you'll be developing a press release to promote the new digital marketing program at Midstate. So we're kind of approaching it as the program is new for Midstate. It's not new in reality, but for the scenario, we'll approach the assignment as if it was the case. In this scenario, the program will officially launch in spring term of 2023. Okay, that marketing program is going to officially launch then. And the strategic approach for the newsletter type is the new product launch release. So as you remember in the press releases in a nutshell document, I have those different press release types and some of the things that would be good to include in each one. So let me go back to that. Type of press release, new product launch. So we're calling this one the new product launch press release because it is the digital marketing program. It's a program, but it's a new product that Midstate is releasing because our products are programs. So underneath this new product launch, I have this little clue saying this release will emphasize the product specs, pricing, availability, and other details. So you'll want to include specs or things, benefits that the program will offer you, how many credits, what the pricing is, when it will be available, of course, spring 2023, and things like that. So you'll want to think of the program as a product. And then what you're going to do is then write the press release to unveil this product to the public um, using the content that I'm going to provide you guys to craft that document. So you want to include and emphasize here product specs. So specs could be a high level for a release. We want to stay away from providing details like specific classes and credits, for example, like a bulleted list of all these classes and all the credits for each class would not be appropriate. What you want to say is, this program will, gain students X amount of credits, like kind of overall. So you can give like those kinds of things, but not get into too much detail. You might maybe, like I mentioned earlier, like if you wanted to call out specifically like a certain aspect of the marketing program that would be highlighted potentially in a quote or something like that. That would be excellent. So you could maybe call out like the new Adobe Creative Suite class or something like that if you wanted to then spin your press release towards more of the creative marketing aspect rather than the sales or the business aspect. So you could do that, you could get specific for class, I guess, if your concept for your press release is to highlight a specific aspect of the program. Pricing, a good one to include in a press release. Availability. So when will the program be offered? Who the program be offered to? Is it available to all high school graduates? Or is it the type of program that can require like prerequisites? So if you approach it as if it's the general public person, they don't know anything about the program or Midstate, but they are interested in marketing, what would that person need to expect? Like, what information could you give that person right away within a page of this document, page and a half, a page to a page and a half of this document to get them to be like, okay, I know enough to be comfortable enough to take the next step and reach out and see if I can schedule some classes. Valuable details, considering mentioning transfer options, mentioning job outlook for positions that require a degree type. What else would be important to a prospective student interested in the program? Kind of ask yourself that and put yourself in their shoes. A lot of what we do in marketing is putting ourselves in other people's shoes. Will someone be able to read this? Will someone be able to understand this? will someone be able to know what to do after reading or understanding this, like as far as a call to action? Is my concept of this marketing campaign too out of this world to even, for the average person to even like get it? Things like that. Ask yourself those questions and put yourself in their shoes. Okay, so the scope of the project here, use the following Word document to plug in your copy. This will be the document you turn in for the assignment. So I'm going to show you the template. So what you're going to do is simply save over the template file with your new content for the assignment and upload it to Blackboard for submission. Remember, a press release should be ideally 1 page and no more than 1.5 pages long. And so here's the file path to the press release document. So I'll go ahead and navigate to it under Learning Plans for week 4, press release project. Now this is the press release project template. So I'm going to open this up and show. Okay, so here's the template. All of this. So here's all those areas that you'll need to fill out. And remember, I don't need your guys' phone numbers. So that's just there as a template. So in the future, if you guys wanted to like reuse this template or something, you could just delete the logo, put a different organization's logo in there, and then just use it. Because this is pretty much standard across the way. You'd probably end up having to, you'd have to change this part down here though too, but this is the template. So what you'll do is just replace this content. You might add a few paragraphs, right? But essentially, this is kind of what it looks like. But I don't want you to go over this much amount here, which is like a page and a half. So a page and a half will be too much, okay? So probably keep it about a page, like maybe something like this would be appropriate. Okay, where the about section is on page 2, and then this, front two-thirds of the page is your content. Now all this text here is all Latin text. That's just placeholder copies. So you're actually going to replace all this with your actual, this is my actual first paragraph. So you're going to give me like actual text here. Okay. Let me undo some of that. And that's essentially that. So that's kind of the template piece. You'll save over and then turn this in with your content. And then I kind of talk about that here. So use the press release template provided as a guide for reference. Oh, this is the outline sample. So yeah, the outline sample, press release outline sample PDF document. Yeah, this is from the lecture that we just had. So you'll go into here, and this outline sample is what I'm referencing here. So just kind of showing you how things are arranged and laid out as well. And then here's what it should include: month and standard press release announcement for immediate release, which is in the template already. It's at the top left of the document, is denoted in the provided press release template. So again, it's already provided there. Your primary contact information. Okay, I did say I didn't need your numbers. Headline. You want a headline in there. The city of your home campus in all caps. So like in the introduction paragraph where it says city, if you remember, in the, I don't have the template open. Shoot. See. So actually right here. So yeah, if you remember right in that first paragraph here, that city is capitalized. So wherever your home campus location is, whether it be Marshfield, Stevens Point or Rapids, that's where it will be. That's what it will be, all caps. It'll say Stevens Point, Marshfield, Adams, or Wisconsin Rapids. All right, let's keep going here. Oh, oh. Okay, so that's that part. Introduction paragraph, base the category for this introductory paragraph on what we discussed during the lecture. One faculty or executive team member quote. So for this quote, you'll act as a ghostwriter, which means you will draft up the quote on behalf of one of the selected individuals below. Choose from one of the following individuals. Okay, so there's either Deb Wallner, who's the instructor of marketing and business here at Midstate, and then Dr. Shelley Mondyke from Midstate Technical College. You can refer to past press releases in the Midstate website to capture sort of the voice, quote unquote, of Dr. Mondyke too, so you can kind of see like how she speaks and what she said in the past. So if I just go to the Midstate website, like I showed you guys earlier, if I go to the site and then just hit this new metal fabrication lab press release, let's see. I don't know if Shelley made a statement on this one. No, she didn't on that one. But she should have one. Definitely not that. Well, there are some press releases. Oh, well, here's one. And it's very similar to how Shelley would speak, but this is Dr. Deb Stencil, who's the vice president of Midstate Academics. Midstate is proud to host our first Regional Skills USA competition and to be part of this invaluable experience for the competitors and event volunteers. So really, it's just kind of your basic boilerplate. Midstate is proud and to be a part of this, and we're excited for the future and thankful to the volunteers, and it's that kind of stuff. And then she goes on to say, we value our partnership with Skills USA and look forward to these competitions and our own students competing at the state and national events this year. So super basic stuff there, but it's just some words that are coming from them. Now you can, down below here, if you wanted to see more, and then dig deeper, you could look in these other press releases here under this more news section. And then we have pages here, so you can page to the next couple pages and then click and see what other press releases have done in the past here as well. And then so you can see how these quotes are used too. So this academy experience is designed to allow candidates the opportunity to learn all important aspects of law enforcement career and what they are about to embark upon, said Rick Anderson, Mid-States Associate Dean of Protective and Human Services. So, it's very kind of boilerplate stuff. So that's kind of what I'm looking for as far as like a quote from you guys to kind of ghost write in there. And truly, let's see here. Yeah. So and truly like in reality, a lot of content people will write the quotes for the president of the college or the president of the nonprofit organization or the president of the company. They'll write the quotes for them and then they'll get those approved by them. Sometimes those folks will actually make a couple changes here and there, but a lot of times there's very basic changes, and a lot of times they'll just say, okay, that sounds good, and go ahead and use that as my quote. That's kind of how it is, because a lot of times those folks are really busy. So let's see. You also want to do one student quote, so that'll cover your two quotes for the press release. And this will be a quote about yourself speaking about the program. From yourself speaking about the program. A call to action, of course, so you remember to learn more and then about the program or to register. Have that call to action at the end of the press release. And then, of course, make sure to include the 3 hashtags to signify that the press release is over. And then the about section, which is the section that's already in the template. You don't really have to do anything, just to make sure you don't delete it and keep it, and make sure you keep it in there. And it says here, use our standard about section text that is shown in the press release document sample. And it's already in the template as well. And then AP styling, again, I kind of reiterate, when you're about 99% of the way there, finished, go back and then do your AP styling, look at the dates and things like that, and make sure that they're kind of styled out the way they should be for AP. So sources, I have sources to content here. So there's a digital marketing informational video. There's a digital marketing webpage on the website. And then there's a couple research materials which I have on Blackboard for you. So I'm going to go ahead and open those up for you real quick. So under the assignment, press release, I have all those research materials under resources. So I have the link to the web page here. If you click on that, you'll be able to find some information about the program. You can find here in the links these transfer opportunities, credit for prior learning. I'm not saying include all of this stuff, but pick and choose the stuff that you think is the most important based on the angle of your release that you want to go with, okay? Do you want to focus more so on the cost savings and things like that, or do you want to just dabble a little bit in that and focus on the crux of the program itself and what it could provide the end student? Like, what is your strategy behind the messaging of the press release? What do you want to highlight the most in it? We also have these tabs here that give a preview about what you'll learn as a student, the costs, an outline of the courses, instructors here. There's a quote from Deb on this one. Careers, possible career paths, and then some video content here. Let's see, so that's the web page. I have a link to the informational video too here. The digital marketing program research material. So we have a program guide for digital marketing here. So this gives more information about it, the classes, and some of the details of the classes. So you might want to, I don't know, kind of if you're looking in here, if you go under like, if you wanted to again focus on like the social media marketing aspect of the program in the release, and talk about how social media is becoming a huge behemoth of marketing, and it has been for a while. Use some of that information to do that, but go into specifically the marketing courses here, and then maybe look at some of this content. What I would probably do is even just kind of highlight, copy, and paste this into a Word document, and then I'd start working with the text from there. Deleting things, sentences that I'm just going to toss away, and then keeping stuff that I think might be effective for bullet points and data points in there. Things like intro to psychology wouldn't be relevant, right? Because this is a press release that's marketing program specific. Intro to psychology is an elective program, so it's not part of the it's not a part of like the nuts and bolts of the actual program. And it's not like across the board, everyone that goes through the program is not going to take that class because they might elect for something else. So here's like another little fact sheet about the marketing program you can use. And then I have the digital marketing promotions program research material. So this is the technical diploma underneath the associate degree path. So this might have some information as well. And then a link to other mid-state press release examples, like I said right here. And you can page through here and see if any of these stand out, that you might feel like would be able to help you build some inspiration to craft up your press release Like, so for instance, new meat cutting and butchery certificate available at Mid-State. It's a great um, headline, right? So pull some you could pull some inspiration from this one. Now let's jump in because this is the launch of a new program or a new certificate. And so you can see how Mid-State is treating this as well. So I would encourage you to go into the old press releases and then kind of look at some of the things that they talk about and see if you can pull this together for the marketing program, using some of this as an inspiration to help you along your way. Okay. Well, I'm sure you guys are going to have questions. I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't have any questions though, because everyone's been doing really good and turning their stuff in very accurately the first time. So, but of course, if you do, just let me know. Be happy to help. So, I'm going to cut this video off today, and we will hopefully see you all soon.